In the heart of America's glittering skyline, where love should mean loyalty, a wife discovers the cruelest betrayal. Her husband, rich, powerful, untouchable, thought he could cheat, lie, and destroy her trust without consequence. But he was wrong. Deadly wrong, because this woman didn't cry. She didn't beg. She smiled. And behind that smile, she built a plan so dangerous, so unforgettable, that when the trap closed, her husband didn't just lose his mistress, he lost his empire, his freedom, and his very name. This isn't just a story of betrayal. This is a story of a wife who turned her pain into the most shocking revenge America has ever seen. A revenge so perfect, it will leave you breathless until the last second. So sit back, because once you enter Emily's world, there is no escape. This is the perfect wife's deadly revenge. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to our channel and click the bell icon. The Harris penthouse was warm, candles flickered on the dining table. Emily had prepared his favorite meal, grilled salmon, roasted asparagus, and red wine breathing beside their plates. "Long day?" she asked gently, watching his tired expression. Richard sighed, loosening his tie. "You could say that. Clients don't let me breathe." Emily's smile was soft. "At least you have me to come home to." Richard leaned forward, brushed a kiss across her cheek. "I don't know what I'd do without you, Em." Her eyes held his, searching, loving, trusting. But inside, something cold tightened in her chest. She had already seen the lipstick smudge on his shirt collar last week. She had already smelled the foreign perfume, jasmine, not hers. She already noticed the late-night meetings that didn't make sense. She smiled anyway. "Neither do I." At midnight, Emily stirred awake. Richard wasn't in bed. She padded barefoot through the apartment, silk robe brushing against her skin, and found him on the balcony, phone pressed to his ear. She stayed in the shadows. Richard's voice was low, urgent, laced with something she hadn't heard in years. Desire. "I told you." "She doesn't suspect a thing." "Stop worrying. Emily trusts me completely. Yes, I'll see you tomorrow. Same hotel." Emily's fingers tightened on her robe. Her stomach clenched, but she didn't gasp, didn't cry. Instead, her lips curved into the faintest, most dangerous smile. So it's true. She slipped back to bed before he returned, her heart pounding, not with pain, but with an icy calm. The next evening, Emily decided to confirm everything. Richard had claimed he was working late. She knew better. She followed him. Dressed in black jeans and a trench coat, hair tied back, Emily moved like a shadow. Her car trailed his sleek black BMW until it stopped at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel, one of New York's most luxurious. Through the glass doors, she saw him meet her. A younger woman, barely 30, raven-haired, laughing too loudly. His assistant. Emily's hands trembled around the steering wheel, but her eyes never left them. She watched as Richard wrapped an arm around the woman's waist, kissed her openly, and led her upstairs. Her breath hitched, but no tears came. Instead, her pulse slowed, steady and sharp like a blade. "So, Richard Harris, the perfect husband, thinks I'm a fool," Emily whispered to herself. "You've just made the worst mistake of your life." Days passed. Emily didn't confront him. She acted the part of the loving, clueless wife. She kissed him goodbye in the mornings, welcomed him home with wine at night, and even laughed at his jokes. But behind her calm eyes, gears turned. She was watching, collecting, learning. At a charity luncheon, her friend leaned closer. "Emily, you're glowing as always. What's your secret?" Emily sipped her champagne, her smile mysterious. Patience. And timing. No one knew what those words meant, but Emily did. One night, Richard returned late, shirt untucked, reeking of perfume. He didn't even notice Emily waiting in the living room. "Rough day?" she asked sweetly. He froze for a second, then forced a smile. "Yeah, clients. You know how it is." Emily tilted her head, her eyes unreadable. "Of course. Must be exhausting. Lying all day." His head snapped toward her. "What?" Emily's smile was angelic. "I said working all day." Richard blinked, shook his head, and hurried off to the shower. Emily leaned back on the couch, a chilling thought blooming in her mind. Not yet. Not tonight. When I strike, it will be so devastating. He won't recover for the rest of his life. Emily began with small steps. She secretly installed a hidden camera in Richard's study. She checked his briefcase when he slept. She copied files from his laptop onto a flash drive. And then, jackpot. It wasn't just infidelity. Richard was hiding millions in offshore accounts, tied to fraudulent deals with his corporate clients. Emily's lips parted in a slow smile. Oh, Richard, you didn't just cheat on me. You committed the perfect suicide. Emily decided to meet the mistress. Not directly. Not yet. At a downtown cafe, Emily accidentally bumped into her. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, Emily exclaimed, spilling a little coffee. The raven-haired woman smiled politely. No worries. Emily glanced at her. Pretty but cheap. The kind of beauty that fades too quickly. You look familiar, Emily lied. Do you work at Harris & Co.? The woman's eyes flickered. Yes, I'm Richard's assistant. Emily's smile was flawless. Ah, of course. I've heard him mention you. You must be very close. The mistress blushed slightly. I suppose you could say that. Emily leaned in, lowering her voice, every word dripping with meaning. Well, just be careful. Richard has a history. Men like him don't always stay loyal. The mistress laughed, unaware of the storm gathering around her. Oh, I can handle him. Emily sipped her coffee, her smile razor sharp. I'm sure you can. Until you can't. That night, Emily stood before her mirror, brushing her hair slowly. Her reflection stared back at her. Calm, beautiful, dangerous. She whispered softly, as if to herself, Richard thinks he's playing me. He thinks I'm weak. But weakness is the mask I wear. And when I take it off, her eyes darkened, I will burn his entire world to ashes. The Harris penthouse glowed with golden lamps, casting shadows over marble floors. Richard poured himself a glass of bourbon, humming softly. Relaxed. Confident, careless. Emily, dressed in silk, sat across from him, legs crossed, sipping wine with the serenity of a woman deeply in love. Tomorrow night, Richard said casually. I'll be home late again. Big case, a lot of work. Emily tilted her head, her smile radiant. Of course, darling. I'll keep dinner warm. Richard's chest puffed with pride. She believed him. She always believed him, but inside, Emily whispered to herself, Keep lying, Richard. The higher you climb, the harder you'll fall. Emily's car glided into the underground garage of a downtown building. She stepped out in dark sunglasses and a trench coat, looking every bit the femme fatale. Inside, she met with a private investigator, an ex-cop named Daniel Cruz. You're sure you want to do this? Daniel asked, sliding a thick folder toward her. Most wives. They want the affair exposed, not... This Emily opened the folder. Photographs of Richard and his mistress at hotels. Bank statements. Fraudulent contracts. Offshore transfers. Her lips curled into a cold smile. No, Daniel. I don't just want an affair exposed. I want his life. Destroyed. Piece by piece. Daniel studied her, half in awe, half afraid. Lady, you're not just a wife scorned. You're dangerous. Emily met his eyes. No, I'm patient. And patience is always deadlier. At the law firm, whispers spread. Richard's assistant, Vanessa, had been spending late nights with him. Most thought it was just work. But Emily knew better. One afternoon, Emily appeared at the office unannounced, carrying a box of homemade cookies. Surprise for my husband, she said sweetly at reception. The staff adored her, the perfect wife, gracious, kind. When she entered Richard's office, Vanessa froze. Oh, Mrs. Harris, Vanessa stammered. Emily's smile was warm, her eyes sharp as blades. Vanessa, isn't it? You look tired. Richard must be keeping you very... busy, Vanessa flushed. Richard coughed awkwardly. Emily, what are you doing here? Emily walked over, placed the cookies on his desk, leaned down and kissed his cheek. Just reminding you how sweet home can be. As she walked out, She glanced at Vanessa with a look so piercing, so calm, it sent chills through the younger woman's spine. Vanessa couldn't explain why, but for the first time, she felt like she was playing with fire. Emily spent nights in Richard's study when he was too drunk to notice. She copied hard drives, photographed contracts, even recorded secret phone calls. The deeper she dug, the more rot she found. Richard wasn't just cheating on her. He was laundering millions through shell companies, bribing judges, and betraying clients. Emily whispered to herself as she flipped through evidence. "You've built an empire of lies, Richard, and I'll turn it into your coffin." One evening, Richard stumbled in, reeking of whiskey and perfume. Emily stood at the window, arms folded. "Do you love her?" she asked suddenly. Richard froze. "What?" Emily turned, her expression unreadable. "Your assistant, Vanessa, do you love her?" His eyes darted nervously. "Emily, don't start. You're imagining things." Emily's gaze softened, her voice tender. "You're right. I must be imagining. Forget I said anything." Richard relaxed instantly, chuckling. "God, you scared me. You're too paranoid." Emily smiled, but her eyes burned like ice. "No, Richard. I'm not paranoid. I'm preparing." Weeks later, Emily invited Vanessa to coffee again. This time, Vanessa looked nervous, fidgeting with her cup. Emily leaned in gently. "You're young, Vanessa, beautiful, but Richard, he's not leaving me. He'll never leave me. You're just a distraction, a temporary toy." Vanessa's lips trembled. "That's not true." He said Emily's smile was pitying. "He said what, darling? That he loves you? That he'll leave me for you? Men like Richard say a lot of things when the lights are off. But tell me, when he marries you, will you still trust him? Or will you stay awake at night wondering who else he's lying to?" Vanessa's eyes welled with tears. She didn't answer. Emily placed a hand on hers, tender but cold. "Think carefully before you give him your heart. Because when Richard destroys a woman, he leaves nothing behind." Vanessa's world cracked that day, and Emily knew. Soon the mistress would turn into a weapon against him. The city buzzed about the upcoming charity gala at the Waldorf Astoria. All of New York's elite would be there. Politicians, CEOs, celebrities. Richard was scheduled to give a speech. It was his big moment, the night he'd announce his new multi-million-dollar deal. Emily, in her private corner, prepared something else. She had sent anonymous tips to journalists. She had arranged certain documents to leak that very night. And she had convinced Vanessa, now doubting Richard, to come clean at just the right moment. Standing before her mirror in a midnight blue gown, Emily whispered, "Tomorrow night, Richard. You won't just lose your empire, you'll lose your soul." The night before the gala, Emily cooked Richard's favorite meal again. She poured his wine, kissed his cheek, and listened as he bragged about the speech. "You'll see, Emily. Tomorrow is the night everything changes." Emily's smile was radiant. "Yes, Richard. Everything will change." He never noticed the steel in her voice, the storm behind her calm eyes. As he laughed and talked, Emily thought silently, "Eat well tonight, my love. Tomorrow you choke on the ruins of your lies." The Waldorf Astoria ballroom glittered with chandeliers and golden silk. Diamonds sparkled, champagne glasses clinked, and cameras flashed as New York's elite mingled. Richard Harris looked every bit the star of the evening, tall, handsome, his tuxedo sharp as his smile. Emily, radiant in her midnight blue gown, stood proudly by his side, hand gently hooked around his arm. To anyone watching, they were the perfect couple. But beneath her serene smile, Emily's heart beat with cold fire. Tonight was the night. As Richard shook hands with politicians and CEOs, Emily whispered sweetly in his ear, "Darling, this night will change your life forever." Richard chuckled, squeezing her hand. "I know," Emily's lips curved. "Yes, you do. Just not the way you think." Hours later, the ballroom hushed as Richard stepped onto the grand stage. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, voice booming, "tonight is the dawn of a new era. Harris & Co. is about to launch the most ambitious project in our firm's history. Thunderous applause shook the room. Cameras zoomed in. Emily stood at the edge of the stage, her expression glowing with wifely pride, masking the storm hidden underneath. Richard raised a glass of champagne. To loyalty, to trust, to building a future together. And that was the moment Emily chose to strike. A murmur rippled through the crowd. At the back of the ballroom, Vanessa, the mistress, stepped forward. Nervous, pale, clutching a folder. "Richard Harris is a liar," she shouted. The crowd gasped. Cameras turned instantly. Richard froze, the smile sliding off his face. "What the hell?" Vanessa's voice shook, but she grew stronger. "I was his assistant. His lover. And I wasn't the only thing he was hiding. He's been stealing millions from his clients, laundering money, covering up crimes." Gasps erupted across the hall. Journalists swarmed forward. Emily's eyes gleamed like cold steel. Perfect. At that exact moment, giant screens flickered to life above the stage. Emails, contracts, bank transfers. Photos of Richard in hotel rooms with Vanessa. Documents Emily had carefully collected and timed to release. Every secret. Every betrayal. Every crime. Projected for the entire elite of New York to see. The ballroom erupted into chaos. Reporters shouted questions. CEOs backed away. Politicians whispered furiously. Richard's face went pale. He staggered, gripping the podium. This is fake. Lies. Emily, help me." And Emily finally stepped forward. She walked up the stage, her heels clicking like a judge's gavel. Standing beside him, she took the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said calmly, her voice steady, cold, undeniable. "Everything you've seen is true. I've been married to Richard Harris for 10 years. 10 years of lies, betrayal, and deceit. I stood by him, loved him, trusted him. And in return," her voice cracked just enough for dramatic effect, "he humiliated me. He cheated on me. He stole from all of you." The crowd roared in shock. Emily turned to Richard, her eyes blazing. "You thought you were clever, that I was weak. But tonight, Richard, I didn't destroy you. You destroyed yourself. I just gave the world a front row seat." Gasps, applause, flashbulbs. Richard's face crumpled as everything he built collapsed in an instant. Police entered the ballroom, documents already in hand. Reporters shouted questions. Guests stepped back as Richard tried to lunge at Emily. "You did this!" he screamed, spit flying. "You ruined me!" Emily didn't flinch. She leaned close, whispered for his ears only. "No, Richard. You ruined yourself the moment you betrayed me. I just made sure everyone saw it." Richard was dragged away in handcuffs, shouting, cursing, his empire crumbling behind him. And Emily stood tall, glowing like a queen who had just executed her king. Weeks later, headlines screamed across America. Powerful lawyer Richard Harris, sentenced to 30 years in prison. Mistress testifies against him. Wife walks away free. Emily Harris, from scorned wife to social icon. The world admired her as the strong woman who exposed her cheating, corrupt husband. She was invited to talk shows, praised as a hero. But there was one last secret only Emily knew. The fraud Richard was caught for? Yes, it was real. But the final evidence, the one that nailed him to the wall, wasn't his. Emily had forged it, carefully, perfectly. She hadn't just exposed him. She had built his downfall, piece by piece. And now he would rot in prison, branded a criminal and a cheater, while Emily walked away with his money, his reputation, and her freedom. One evening, Emily stood on her balcony overlooking Manhattan's glittering skyline. She poured herself a glass of wine, her gown flowing in the night breeze. To the city, she whispered softly, "Men like Richard think betrayal makes them powerful. But the truth is, betrayal makes women unstoppable. He thought I'd cry. He thought I'd break. Instead, I became his nightmare. And when history remembers Richard Harris," she smiled, eyes gleaming with triumph, "it will remember the wife who destroyed him." She raised her glass, took a slow sip and turned away, her silhouette vanishing into the shadows of her penthouse. The city below kept buzzing, unaware that it had just witnessed one of the most legendary revenges in modern history. If you liked my story, please like the video, subscribe to our channel, and share it with as many people as possible. Thanks for watching.